your brain optimized to a point where you are able to make the right choices, because the choices you make are based on what your brain does. And your brain is lazy. So is mine. It's so lazy. You guys don't realize it optimizes everything. So
Right.
when something happens and goes, what does this look like? Oh, it looks like this. Okay, let's mold this
Let's
together.
go that.
And then you have this huge mold of things, and it goes, okay, this is that. So you're going to act like this. And that's not serving you. And it
Right.
does that because it is preparing just in case something bad happens. So it has enough energy. So it's not like you chose to do that. It does that.
Right.
Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stevenson, the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, where our ongoing goal is to inspire our listeners to live their best audacious lives ever. I really appreciate you taking the time to join us on this podcast and take time out of your busy day. So thank you for doing this. Now, just like our brains, which are as powerful as a CEO guiding our every action, decision, ultimately our greatness, our guest today is Dominika Staniewicz, and she exemplifies the importance of understanding and optimizing our brain's potential. Dominika is a brain coach with a unique blend of medical knowledge, psychology, and neuroscience and behavioral science, dedicated to helping individuals unlock their brain's true potential to lead fulfilling and successful lives. With over 12 years of experience of coaching and personal development, Dominika brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to the table. And in this episode, she'll shed light on the significance of understanding our brain's role in shaping our behaviors, emotions, and ultimately our lives. Her expertise in brain coaching offers valuable insights in how we can retrain our brain to overcome trauma, fears, and limiting beliefs, ultimately leading to personal growth and success. It absolutely is a wonderful episode, and I'm glad that we were top of mind for you to join us. So without any further ado, here's my conversation with Dominika. Enjoy. Hey, Dominika, thank you for joining me here today on the Audacious Living Podcast. It's a treat for you to be here, and thank you for making the time like this.
Hello. And it's such a pleasure to be your guest, and thank you for everybody who tuned in.
Yeah, no, thank you. You know, we spend so much time on this podcast, really encouraging individuals that, ways that they can live their best audacious lives, and oftentimes, that starts with their own individual actions and the things that they can do to get themselves on that path of greatness. A big contributor to the actions they take or the thoughts they think and the feelings they feel. And I think that's where your work as a brain coach fits in very nicely, because it's our brains, which is the most powerful tool on the planet, that really guides everything that we do and really guides our greatness. So it makes sense for you to be here. And maybe as a starting point, we can get you sort of expand a little bit on the work you do and how you landed into the field, actually. I'm curious about that.
Okay, well, let's start with the things. What is a brain coach? Because it's such a rare trait.
Mm-hmm.
It is a combination of medical knowledge, psychology, neuropsychology, neuroscience, and behavioral science mixed all together, where we acknowledge that what you just said, our brain decides about everything: how you react, how you think, how you present, how you wake up, how you feel, what are your behavior patterns, is your heart working properly? And everything else is done by the CEO of our life, which is our brain. And guess what? If you're depressed, it's not you, it's your brain. If you're getting angry too often, it's not you, it's your brain. Now, the moment you recognize your brain is messing up, that is your responsibility to take charge and change that.
Right.
So taking that into account, I have been a coach previously, and I was a career coach for many years. And then, I became aware of my imperfect brain, and I started working on me for about 12 years. And when I got myself to a point where I practice what I preach, I said, okay, well, now let's go back into coaching. But I didn't want to do career coaching anymore because that was unfulfilling. Yes, it was phenomenally paid. Six-figure income earners were getting 6 and 7 figuring jobs. I got paid. It was fantastic.
Yep.
And it was so meaningless to me.
Mm.
So I started searching, and because I have Master of Science, and I'm also a person who absolutely loves proof that something is real, besides the fact that, we have our energy, we believe in God, universe, whatever else we believe
Right.
in. When it comes to human body, with all the respect to all the religions, there's also science behind it. And we created science, or God created science, whatever you want to say, so we can use it. So let's use it, and let's be mindful of that gift that we have. So I started researching, and I'm a Tony Robbins girl. I go through his events. I support people during the events. I go around, to different trainings so I can better myself. I have my own coach, and I was like, yeah, but all of them, there's like, I need to know why. Those people that need to know why.
Yeah.
They just don't take it at face value. Yeah, that's
Right.
me.
Yep.
So one day I run into Dr. Joseph McClendon III. If you guys don't know who he is, he's the dude who's at Unleash the Power Within, the Black guy who has a PhD in neuropsychology, and he's Tony Robbins' best friend and a business partner for over 30 years. He trains all his people in neuroscience, and his trainers, his coaches in that realm of knowledge. And then he paired up with Dr. Daniel Amen, who is another phenomenal human who works with all the brains of our NFL players. So they don't end up drinking 5 years later and taking drugs and spending all their money. And guess what? They're not bad people. It is the brain trauma that they experience that changes. And what's weird about brain is that, when you hit that brain over and over,
Yes.
I don't know if you know, but your brain is like the consistency of warm butter, and you have hard ridges in your skull. So every time you hit it, it makes an indentation. And sometimes people don't realize that when you have a car accident, you fall off the floor, you fall off the ladder, you fall off a bike, you actually have brain trauma, period. And it doesn't have to show up until you're like 40 or 50. So taking care of your brain is so important, so you can have beautiful relationships, so you can be successful, so you can get rid of stress, because stress is not necessary for success.
Right.
So you can get rid of anxiety, so you can live the life you want to design. And what's beautiful about brain coaching is that the definition of success is your definition. If your success is that you have kids that grow up to be good human beings, and stay at home dad or mom, yes, let's go and get that done without you getting stressed, without you having anxiety, panic attacks, and fluctuations and movements. But we also recognize that for somebody it is, making a lot of money. And then we're working, to get your brain optimized to a point where you are able to make the right choices, because the choices you make are based on what your brain does. And your brain is lazy. So is mine. It's so lazy. You guys don't realize it optimizes everything. So when something happens and goes, what does this look like? Oh, it looks like this. Okay, let's mold this together.
Let's go that.
And then you have this huge mold of things, and it goes, okay, this is that. So you're going to act like this. And that's not serving you. And it does that because it is preparing just in case something bad happens. So it has enough energy. So it's not like you chose to do that. It does that for you. And you don't like it because most of the time we use old, it learned when you were 6, 7, 50, that something worked, and you keep repeating it. And like, you're 40 and you're like, why isn't it working? Well, because you're 40. You're not 16 anymore.
That is such an excellent explanation for how habits get formed, and patterns, the repeated patterns over and over again. And how many times have we seen individuals get in these patterns and go, why are they doing that? Right? Well, this is what they've learned, and their brain is saying, let's do it again.
And one of the beautiful things is that you got to remember that they're doing the best they can with the knowledge they have. And that is so, because our parents would have raised us differently if the knowledge I have was available. The knowledge I have is around for 15 years. They had no clue how neural pathways are being formed, how chemicals are being released, because your feelings are not your feelings, are actually chemicals that get released. And there is literally a process for everything. And we can now interrupt those processes in your brain, so you don't feel a certain way, but actually, to be honest, you don't release certain chemicals that make you feel a certain way. So the beauty of neuroscience is that we have discovered so much, and we're at the very beginning about the brain, that we can now reverse engineer. So I have sometimes clients that come to me, they go, oh my God, I'm depressed, and I'm just awful. I'm like, okay, you are depressed or you feel depressed? Well, I feel depressed. Okay.
Right.
And how long have you been feeling depressed? Well, for about 3 weeks. Oh, okay. So first thing we do, and what most coaches don't do, I ask them to go and get blood work done. Now, I'm not saying that depression is the only result of depression is your blood work, but if you're missing D3, iron, ferritin, magnesium, potassium, you have inflammation in your body, this is directly correlated to what you feel. It doesn't have to be the only reason. It's not the solution. It's not a diagnosis. I'm not
a
a doctor.
contributing factor, right?
But it is a factor, and we need to check that.
Right.
Next, how often are you outside? How often do you interact with people? How much of blue light do you have in your life? How much do you sleep? There are phenomenal studies on sleep and correlation with how you feel. How much do you move? What do you eat? And then what beliefs do you have? So all of that plays together. And of course, there are psychiatric disorders that result in depression. There are brain traumas that result in depression. Like you had a car accident, 6 months later, out of the blue, somebody gets angry or depressed or gets really frustrated all over nothing. It's most likely the brain trauma. And there are ways to mitigate that, make that something that is not influencing your life. The thing is that we as human beings, I don't care what happened in history. I don't care what your mom did. I don't care what your dad did. I don't care how history treated you. I'm partially Jewish, I can blame everything on history. The truth is I want to have a better life.
Right.
So I'm going to take responsibility for my brain, for my actions, and I'm going to choose where I want to go. And this applies to everybody. I predominantly work with biracial, bicultural, and bilingual people.
Okay.
You know why? Because our brains are different. Our brains are different, especially for bilingual and bicultural. Biracial, not so much. But because they're brought up into different cultures, it is important which language did you use at the beginning, because I don't know if you know, your brain creates primary thought processes. You have thoughts, impulses when you're an infant or you're in a belly. But then when you become a growing human being, by the age of 7, your brain created beliefs that you have nothing to do with. So for example, you were sitting there and playing, I don't know, red toys, right?
Yep.
And then in the other room, your parents were fighting and you got startled and you thought they're screaming at you. Your brain connected their fight, them screaming at each other, with you playing the red toy. And then you go, oh my God, I hate red. It makes absolutely no sense, but your brain does that notoriously. So stop blaming yourself. First of all, have an amazing life. Stop blaming yourself and go, okay, it is what it is. It's not good. It's not bad. It is what it is. It's information. What do I want to do with it? Do I want to keep it because it's helping me get where I want to go? Or maybe it's not helping me. And then if it's not helping you, what else can I do?
Right.
What else can I do? What else can I try? See, I love people say, I've tried everything.
Right.
Everything? Like really everything? Okay, what did you try? And they mentioned 3 things, and they mentioned 3 things that are the most accessible. Part of brain coaching is realizing that if you're, for example, planning and you're great at planning and executing and everything goes straight down, you're very uncreative, which means you'll be only accessing the top memories, the basic memories that you have. If you want to get creative and come up with new solutions, you need to be bored. And we're not letting our kids or ourselves to be bored. We're not letting, and that is so important for us. Our brain needs to be bored so it doesn't process information and can access deeper down inside your memory path and connect that. That's where the wow ideas come from. So when you're in a board meeting, let's say, or if you're in a meeting, stop having a plan. Just talk about random things and try to connect them. Be bored. Be bored. Doodle. Ask people to doodle when talking.
Find ways to put your brain in a bored state. To be more creative.
Yes, absolutely. But when you're creative, you're not good at planning. So that's why we have those people who go, oh my God, she's so creative, but their house is in chaos. Bills are not paid because the part of creativity is overreacting. Now, the beauty of brain coaching, we can retrain your brain so you can use both parts of your brain. We can use amygdala, we can use basal ganglia in different ways, and we can retrain that because we know how it works now. And guess what? Anxiety, it is 90% of the times treatable
Yes.
without taking medication. You just need to choose to work on it. We absolutely can get that done. Depression, most of the times it is treatable unless you're in an acute state
Gotcha.
without medication, and there's so many things we know now.
Yep.
And we can prevent things from happening. And guess what? Some people suck. It's
Yes.
okay. It's okay to judge them. It's okay to say they suck because they're mean people. But they're not mean to you because they're mean. It's because they don't know any other way. So that compassion comes in, and then you go, okay,
Yeah.
so who do I want to surround myself with?
Yes.
Because if you take this beautiful little tiny soil, little seed, and you want to have a beautiful flower, you put it in the right soil, it's going to blossom and it's going to grow. You take it out, put it in a desert, and it's going to die. It's the same seed.
Seed. Yep, you're right. You're absolutely right. No, and I think that's a great analogy in terms of when you want something to grow, it's like where do you plant it essentially, right? And so that will give you the best growth results, if you will. You said so many wonderful things, and I want to. My brain is going all different places of things we want to talk about, but let's kind of go. Let's go back to the process of uncovering the roots of our trauma, right? So. And they gave the analogy of the red toy and your parents arguing, the brain makes that connection between the two. The process of uncovering that, I wonder if you can sort of walk with that, because walk with that looks like, because it's first of all, it's not an easy thing to uncover, first and foremost, right? There's an intense level of digging, if you will, to figure that out. But even making that connection, I don't think it's something we could totally do on our own, or maybe we can, but it just seems like a very, very, very difficult process.
So first of all, you need to choose to get rid of the trauma, because before we go into uncovering, a lot of people get value for living in trauma. And they go into a victim mode. They get attention. They get people caring about them. People feel sorry for them. They attract people that, give them feeling of belonging because they have trauma. And first step, it is to acknowledge the fact that this is actually a way to not go forward. Living near trauma, if you choose to live there, you're not going anywhere.
Right.
And I have every right to speak about this because when my son was 16 months old, he fell asleep and never woke up. I think that's pretty much called a traumatic event.
Yes.
Now, it's very different than from using the wrong pronouns on somebody. That is not a traumatic event. That is discomfort, anger, whatever. So first of all, we need to recognize what trauma is. And trauma is a significant event that changes how your brain is wired. It literally does that. Now, this constitutes, being part of war, having PTSD, being raped, being physically or verbally constantly abused, living in permanent fear. There are quite a few things and of course somebody can say, oh, I had a traumatic event, I was a witness to somebody yelling at a store. Well, I understand that was a challenging event for you. I don't know if I would qualify that as trauma. So first of all, is recognizing that it makes you miserable and deciding that you don't want to live like this anymore. That's the first step. Next step is asking yourself, what am I getting because of that trauma?
Good question.
Am I getting attention and I'm getting love, and I'm getting an excuse not to do something. Oh, I can because I'm in trauma. Oh, I can because of this. Because that's the first thing to do. Now, trauma is deeply rooted in your brain and your emotions, your chemical releases, and you do feel the way you feel. So to be very clear, I'm not dismissing how you feel, but we need to take that and look at this without emotions. And part of that is realizing that there is a trigger that creates a chemical release, and your brain lumped everything together and now starts associating everything because it's similar to, and it does that automatically. So one of the things we got to do is first look around. Do people around us live with trauma and consider this as an excuse as a way of living? Again, they are feeling this. It is absolutely true to them, and it's not serving them. So after we recognize that, the best thing to do is to get either a coach, a therapist, or a psychiatrist.
Uh-huh.
If you don't do that, there are ways to do it otherwise. First of all, change your environment. Change your environment and look for people who will tell you things you don't want to hear, that will call you out on your BS.
Yes.
Because if you surround yourself with people going, oh, you're poor, you, oh, yes, yeah, you can, because everybody hates you. That's why you can't get a job.
Yep.
You know,
They're
I
going to
could
give you that thing you're getting out of it, right? That was like,
yeah,
go back,
it's a game.
right?
So
That question you
everybody
asked. Yeah.
supports you.
That's right.
And you feeling like crap. I mean, hey, if you want to feel like crap, go for it. I don't.
Right.
And this happens, needless to say, in every society, no matter the, racial makeup, no matter the age. In Poland, for example, me being partially Jewish can be a great excuse for me not having privileges, certain privileges, although they're not privileges. I would translate that into privileges. Me being a woman, 30 years ago, running a business, ooh, that was fun. I had to hire a man to pretend to be a CEO so I can do business, so I'm not asked to have sex with the CEOs of other companies.
Wow.
And that was absolutely normal. So I could use that excuse, go, oh no, I can't do business because I'm a woman and it makes me feel uncomfortable, or find a way around and go, okay, this is not going to stop me. When I came here with all my degrees back to the US, being a US citizen, guess what? They told me, oh no, yeah, you had studies from Europe. That doesn't count here. You have no experience in America.
Right.
So guess what I did with all my 4 degrees? I was working separating hangers at a warehouse with convicts.
Right.
Why? Because this was the people's perception, and I cannot change that, but I can change how I react to it.
Yes. Yes.
And that was my choice. So I started working and I met their needs, remembering that's what they're thinking is just lack of knowledge, lack of experience.
Yep.
Not my job to change them. I want to have a great life. With trauma, then is recognizing your feelings, looking for what triggers you that makes you feel like crap. For me, it was, for example, after my son died, it was the sound of, I can never pronounce it, defibrillator. Sound and the sound of ambulance. I would literally freeze.
Right.
So one of the things I invite you guys to do is find somebody, for example, who does EMDR. It works in 70% of cases.
Okay.
It is using rapid eye movement technique. I do this and a lot of other people do it as well. It is desensitizing your brain from the event. So it takes the event and you have the feelings and they're combined in your brain. So what EMDR does, it separates those two. So the feelings don't show up when the event is triggered. And then you go back, oh, that was really awful. But there's no feeling of, I'm a victim, I'm awful, life is terrible. And I call this changing stones into feathers. Because we cannot change our past, but we can change how we feel about the experience. So let's just, it is what it is. If, although traumatic, you might have been raped, you might have been in traumatic, it is what it is. We cannot change that. And guess what? Asking your great grandfather, why was he the way he was towards you? He will not remember. I don't remember what I ate 5 days ago for breakfast.
Right.
Needless to say, what I did 30 years ago and why did I do it and what did I think then? So that is, for some people it works, but for most people, it is important to acknowledge, state, you were hurt, you were, mistreated. All of those things happen, no doubt. And also those people did the best they could with the knowledge they have. Most likely they repeated their patterns that happened to them. So you can choose to live in that, or you can say, okay, this happened. Now, what am I going to do about it?
That's right. That's right.
And EMDR is one of the options. Another one is a protocol that you can do. It's from psychiatry. You can do it on your own. You don't need to go to any doctor. They have found that 5 years later, people had 80% less experience and kind of emotional reaction towards those events after they did it.
Okay.
And it's only 4-time exercise. You do it 4 times. It's painful, it hurts, and it's unpleasant. So going through trauma, getting rid of trauma is not pleasant. You're not going to feel great at the beginning. So you need to face what it is. And when you do that, it is such a relief. Imagine knowing about your past and not holding you back.
Yeah.
Knowing about, it's like, I know that, 80% of my family went to Auschwitz-Birkenau and got shot by Germans and exterminated. And I could go on and on why this is unfair and why did it happen.
Right.
It did. And we're gone. And we're done. But the people who are alive now, they have nothing to do with it.
That's correct.
And I'm still living in the past. And somebody, I don't remember who said that, but when you relive your trauma and you keep holding on to it, it's like releasing poison into your body, expecting somebody else to die.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And it's and that continuous pattern over and over and over again. And all it does, it weakens you, it debilitates you. And, the others involved, they're living their lives, doing their own thing, and they have no connection.
And they don't even know that you're going through this.
No, they don't. They don't oftentimes. And I think that really is an important, and I know certainly to this discussion, but really all aspects of our lives, it's an important thing to keep in mind is that, we can't hold on to things, because by holding on to things, we're bringing ourselves down and preventing ourselves from moving forward, right?
So, and the cortisol release that happens with that stress and all of the things you're doing, it is only affecting your body and then your environment. Now, again, if that is serving because you're getting, and that's very unhealthy love, by the way, very unhealthy attachment, very unhealthy way of attracting people towards you.
Yes.
But we serve. So there is this psychiatric protocol, which you do 4 times. And before you do that, they have found and studies that expanding vocabulary that is related to feelings is crucial.
Okay.
So I'm going to use men because men are having right now the most difficulties with this. We women get together and we talk about everything. You really don't want to hear what we talk about. And we use vast vocabulary array of it expressing how I feel. Men say, I'm angry, I'm pissed off, I'm furious. And then they curse, more or less. And I'm annoyed, maybe. Those 5 words are connected to certain chemical releases. So you have no option to feel the variety of feelings. And you have no option of decreasing it. So one of the workshops that is worth doing with men, for men, by women or by men, I don't care who you are, is developing the vocabulary for feelings. Peeved, distressed, uncomfortable, all of those. So you can start using, and when you start to feel something, attach those feelings to lessen intensity. It allows you to be able to describe actually how you feel. Because again, your brain lumps things together. And if it has only 5 things to lump it to, what happens? Even if you're just annoyed, it's going to be lumping it to pissed off because that's the only definition it knows. So you're going to feel pissed off with the high intensity for something that has absolutely no meaning in your life, right? Somebody, I don't know, somebody didn't open the door for you. Really? You're going to be pissed off because somebody didn't open it? It's like, what a waste of time. But again, you don't have the vocabulary and your brain doesn't have the creation and something to attach to new words. So expanding that vocabulary. And after you do that, it is writing down, choosing one event, and that's very important. Do not write about all your trauma experiences. You choose one event that you're going to write everything, how you felt. That's why the first exercise is important. And you write for 15 minutes. I don't care how stupid, if it's grammatical, if it makes sense. Write as many things, how you felt, what you saw, what you smelled. Every sense, use every sense, and put a stop. And then put it away. Next day, you do the same thing about the same event. You do it 4 times. It's painful. It's uncomfortable. If it's too much to do it every day, because traumatic events are extremely painful, then do it once a week. So do it for a month. They have found that this protocol, which is also promoted by Dr. Huberman, you do not require to go to a doctor. You can show this later on to a coach, to a therapist, or to your doctor if you choose to, but you can do it alone at home. Have found that people who've done this protocol truly feel better and do not feel traumatized by the event 5 years later. So it works about 80%. So it's a great protocol for doing that. It's a psychiatric protocol. Not many people know about it, and it's do it yourself. Now, I am a big fan of using coaches and therapists, some, and psychiatric help if necessary.
Mhm.
Our brain is an organ. If you're having problem with your heart, you're going to a cardiologist.
Yes.
If you're having problem with your legs, you're going to, I don't know, somebody who deals with bones, right? So if you have eye problems, you go to optometrist, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
So if you're having problems with your brain, and that's exactly where you're having problems, go to a person that specializes in it. And there are different tiers, right? If it's severe, definitely a psychiatry.
Yes.
If it's OCD, severe OCD, I would say a specializing, therapist that does only OCD. If it's, kind of communication problems, a psychologist or a coach. There's so many people you can choose from.
Yes. Yes.
And we are at different tiers, and you have group coaching, you have group therapy, you have individual, you have BetterHelp, you have people like me, there's so much to choose from. Why would you want to be unhappy unless it's providing you something that you need? And the next question after you do these protocols and do all of this, you go, okay, how can I get that need met in other ways? Because if you don't find other ways to meet that need, you'll go back to behavior.
Yeah. So it's about replacing that behavior.
Yes.
Absolutely. No, I know. I love that approach. And then I think with all that you've described, I think it's an excellent way of sort of getting you on that pathway of eliminating things like fear and the doubt, self-doubt people sometimes have, or the uncertainty that they carry with them when it comes to certain things. I think it sounds like this will get us to eliminate those things, doesn't it?
It's a first step, and a lot of things have different places in your brain and they're specialized. So fear is in a different place, your limbic system works differently, your parasympathetic, there's so many things that play a role. One thing that I invite people to do is choose and listen to podcasts or read books. I would suggest read books and read them slowly. So what I have found is that a lot of people go, I'm into personal development, and they read all those books. And they're great books like Power of Habit, Dr. Amen books, Joseph's books, Tony's books, Jay Shetty's books, now The Worthy from Carrie J. Lima, all those amazing books.
Yes.
But what you do, you read them and you put them aside and you're so inspired and you don't do, can I curse on this?
You're almost ahead.
Yeah, you don't do with it. You just read it. No, I want to invite you to read a book. And when you find something inspiring, underline it, take a picture, and implement it. Implement that into your life. And if you get overwhelmed easily, you can get this book, The Magic of Dreaming Big, Acting Small and Achieving Success, which teaches you how to concentrate on the process, not on the outcome. And it is so important. There's so many
Dominika, that's a really, I'm sorry to cut you, but that's a very important point. That the process, that journey, that pathway that we take. So much times it's like, let me get to the top of the mountain, and when I get there, I'll be happy. Or when I get there, I'll achieve success. When I get there, I'll find fulfillment. But the reality is all the things that you've encountered on that journey to that top of that mountain, whether it's the adversity that's made you stronger, or the lesson that you learned that you've now retained, and maybe you're giving it to someone else to help them. Those are the things that truly matter on that pathway journey. And that's why I wanted to sort of comment on that, because sometimes I think that gets mixed up and confused, doesn't it?
So I'm going to go to this because this is the book that I just released in January, and I think it's life-changing. And I know I'm beating my own drum, but it is. So we have been a society, and this, don't get me wrong, I love men. I think men are amazing creatures. Not that I understand them, but they're amazing creatures and they're fantastic. And they bring so much beauty into the world with the way they are, and safety. And most of them are phenomenal humans. And in years of history, they were the ones who created companies. They were the ones who built businesses. They were the ones who were studying. They were the ones that were scholars. They were the ones that were doing the studies. So everything we know at present time is from the perspective of a male perspective and a male brain.
Sure.
Which studies have found undoubtedly that our brains are different. They're not the same. They're created different. And that's perfectly okay. And the recent studies for the last 15 years done by Stanford have shown that if we want to create a joyful life, a happy life, it is not the outcome that comes, so the competitive part of a male brain. It is actually, and women, by the way, we didn't have any other examples of success. So what did we do? We took on male behaviors because that's the only thing we know that is successful. Now it's time where women are discovering different versions of management, different versions of communication. We didn't have that opportunity before. So it's a phenomenal time to acknowledge all the beautiful things men have done for the growth of the society, as well as discover new ways. And that particular study teaches us that if we start complimenting our kids and employees on the process and finding solutions in the process and celebrate that, we will create a neural pathway connection in the brain of a dopamine and oxytocin and serotonin, well, not all three at once, mainly serotonin release, which will be associated with finding solutions as something that we are grateful for and we enjoy. As a result, in a process, you will start looking for more challenging things because you will be enjoying finding solutions. And with time, over 20 years' time, people who were motivated like this or gave them feedback like this and started living like this achieved 80% more than people who were praised for being smart, good, intelligent, pretty, or whatever else. One key thing is the celebration. See, and I want to bring back again men, my lovely creatures, because we have plenty to learn from men, and you guys can learn from each other as well. Sure. When you watch sports, and that's a very important example, men are watching sports and looking, and there's your team playing, and you go, I'm not going to celebrate until the match ends. No, I'm just going to be very silent. I'm going to wait for the result. No, you go, oh my God, 2 meters, ski pass. Oh my God, you can do this. Okay, that's okay. That's okay. You're going to get back, right? You celebrate the tiniest progress and you yell and you scream and you jump, no matter the ethnicity. So you enjoy the process. The outcome is not in your head. You're enjoying the process. And you're celebrating the smallest successes. That's a gift. But for some unknown reason, all of humanity, or most of the humanity, is using it only while watching sports. Why those people are more important than you to celebrate their progress? Why they have so much value to you that you get to celebrate their 2-meter pass, I don't know, kicking a ball, whatever else that you watch, and you're not important enough to celebrate the fact that a client called you and, you know, wanted to have a conversation with you, that you got a referral, that you did everything you wanted to do. Celebration is the key to relieving stress. Love it. Celebration is the key to enjoyment of life. And the number 2 is gratitude, which we have plenty of scams. What happens to your brain when you're in gratitude? But I want to stress the celebration and the enjoyment of process. See, if you keep doing little basic things every day and enjoy them, there's no way you're not going to get the result. It's just not. Right. If you study every day 15 minutes instead of studying once a month for 8 hours, you will get the result. And guess what? It's less stressful, it's easier, it's more fun, and you get to celebrate. And out of the blue, life stops being overwhelming, because if you apply this method to everything that I talk about in this book and quote the studies and Dr. Joseph McClendon as well, it turns out that life doesn't have to be hard. And people keep saying life is hard. No, it's not. You make it hard. You make it hard for yourself. Are there challenges or difficult situations? Absolutely. Right. But life is not hard on a daily basis, getting up, brushing your teeth. If you like your job, going to your work and doing what you do, you know, people that you like, you meet them every day. I have this client and she would go every time. She goes, oh God, I had an awful day. What again? I'm like, okay, so what happened? Well, I got in a fight with this coworker. I'm like, that's terrible. So how long did the fight last? Well, I don't know, like 5 minutes. I'm like, okay. And how long were you mad after those 5 minutes? Well, like an hour. I'm like, okay. So out of 16 hours, that 1 hour created a bad day? Right. She goes, well, no. I'm like, okay, so you had a good day and you had a bad hour. Yeah. I'm like, fantastic. Let's celebrate you had a good day.
Yeah, that's right. Right. I used to use an expression that I don't have bad days, I have bad moments. And that's exactly what you're describing. I think if you let one moment rob your entire day, I think you've just wasted that day.
But it is something you need to train. It's
Yes.
not something you know naturally. We are creatures that generalize. Our brain generalizes, distorts, and deletes. And you need to retrain your brain because it's, again, not your fault. Society trained
Yeah.
you
Yeah. Yep.
to
Yep.
speak in that way, and it trained you because our brains are built like this. Our brains generalize things, create lumps of things. So it is not that you're a bad person or you're stupid or you're uneducated.
Yep.
It is because, first of all, we didn't have the science before. Second of all, it is that your brain works like this, but you learn 2+2 at school, yet nobody teaches you how to self-regulate.
Right.
What are
Oh,
the feelings? What are the emotions? How to work with that? We're great with, well, not anymore. A lot of us used to be great with geography. Now you ask somebody, and people keep saying that Africa is a country and they find the capital of Africa. And I'm like, gosh, where did you go to school? Please don't, just make sure that nobody else goes to that school. Because it's scary, right? And I'm not talking you don't need to know all the capitals of the world. It's not necessary, but at least know the, continents. It would be kind of
certainly.
nice.
Be nice.
I know it's a stupid idea,
No, no,
maybe.
no, no. What you're saying makes sense. It makes sense. No, I think it is an interesting conversation. I want to I wonder for a moment you can just talk about the significance, the importance of neural pathways. Maybe for those, what are they? So just so we're all level set, people know what they are and how and why they're so important for us.
Okay. So neural pathways, I love them. They're awesome. I'm all excited. I'm moving in my chair for those who don't see me. I'm getting ready. So I have this analogy that
Okay.
hopefully explains. Neural pathways are connected to your neuroplasticity.
Okay.
Long time ago, we used to think that your brain can change only up to the age of 25 when you're a child. We know that it's inherently not true. Your brain has the neuroplasticity, it's just in a different version till the day you die. It's never too late to change, and your brain can change even at 80 or 90. So stop using that BS excuse. Now, neural pathways are when your brain connects an event to a thought and to a reaction in different places of your brain.
Mm-hmm.
But the connection doesn't happen after the age of 25. I'm assuming that your audience, you guys are over 25. So we're going to talk about adults, not kids, because in kids it's different. Your brain kind of goes, oh, these things are connected. And what's important, you need to go to sleep or go into deep rest for the neural pathway to create. And at the beginning, when that happens once, you need to also direct your brain to tell your brain that this is important to change. The fact that you've experienced something, it's going to do absolutely nothing for your brain. You literally, as an adult, have to say, okay, this is important. I'm going to work on this, and this needs to change because it's not serving. So it has to be a very conscious decision with action and an emotion combined. And then when you go to sleep, your brain forms something, as a need for comparison, as thin as a hair.
Okay.
It happens again, it becomes like a ribbon. It happens again, it becomes like a sidewalk. It happens again, it's a one-way street. It happens again, it's a two-way street. It happens again, it's a highway. Happens again, it becomes a freeway. And when it becomes a freeway, it becomes your default behavior.
Gotcha.
And we want those default behaviors to be the ones that serve us, not the ones that were created by mistake. Now, with that being said, somebody goes, oh, so I'm changed forever. No, those pathways that you've created are staying with you forever, the good ones and the bad ones.
Yes.
So when you're in high stress or high trauma, you might see that the old behaviors come out. The key is to work with a coach or a therapist or a psychologist to have tools to notice that the old behavior is surfacing and cut it off the moment you see it, so you can default back into what you retrained yourself to. The more you do it, the easier it gets. So, for example, this year, I always choose a word, and my word is receiving.
Okay.
I have found that although I get a lot of positive feedback from people, I do what most of us do. And I would like to invite you to look at yourself. And I go, I appreciate that. And I move on. Which means that not only I've dismissed the person saying I appreciate that and closed it. Second of all, I did not feel what they told me. Third of all, I deprived them of feeling good. So starting this year, my word is receiving. So I'm receiving literally everything. So as soon as I notice that I'm getting a gift of a compliment, of somebody being nice, opening the door, I literally stop. I look them in the eye and I go, thank you. I really appreciate that you made my day. You could not believe how many people light up like a freaking light bulb, and they feel heard and seen, and they feel important just for those 2 seconds. And I allow myself to actually intake what they told me and feel it. So my brain can acknowledge, oh, somebody likes you. Oh, somebody finds you pretty. Oh, instead of dismissing those events.
Yes.
Now, somebody says consciously, I call this receiving, because this shows up when somebody offers you a job. This shows up when somebody goes, I got a client for you. This shows up when you said, hey, I want to talk to you. I felt so important. And it's because I allowed myself to enjoy and celebrate the fact that somebody else finds my knowledge important. There's nothing wrong with that. But it allows me then to practice gratitude, which is another phenomenal tool for everybody.
Yes.
Or prayer. I don't pray. I use gratitude. But people who pray, I literally teach people who pray how to pray to change their brain, because what we do is usually not working. It is, again, a kind of, dear God, thank you for all the gifts you have given.
Right.
Bless it.
Okay,
let's see.
Yeah.
Right? That doesn't work. But there are ways you can learn how to pray to rewire your brain for gratitude, for joy, where you can actually get yourself to a point where you're happy and crying from happiness and joy. That's how ecstatic you can get. And it's not fake. It's actually creating those neural pathways. So anyway, that's one of the methods also to create joyful and audacious living. And most people underappreciate gratitude. I wake up in the morning and I always say one sentence: it's going to be a great day. I'm curious what's going to happen for me today. I'm curious, which allows me to be open, receiving.
Or excited, right?
Or excited.
Right? That's another
now,
one.
Excitement is the same emotion as anxiety, by the way. It's just a different level.
Gotcha.
So sometimes we don't want to be too excited, because then it can transfer quickly to being anxious. But that's another lesson in a whole. I mean, there are so many things in the brain, and I
need to pay attention to that, because I'm excited a lot. So I need to pay attention to that one. I gotta take that lesson.
Okay, let me explain this. Do you want an example of the difference between anxiety?
Sure, while we're on it. Yeah.
Okay, so when you're excited, so for example, you're going to your grandma and she's making the best grits ever.
Yep.
And you haven't seen her in a year. You are excited. Oh my God, I'm going to have those grits, and the memories are coming back and the smells are coming back. All of this. You get there, eat those grits. You're so satisfied. Dopamine is being released, which is the happy, calm hormone and attention hormone. And you're like, oh my God, life is amazing. Then grandma goes in and like, hey, I'm going to make grits tomorrow. I'm like, oh, okay. The excitement is gone.
Right.
See, because excitement needs anticipation for it to work. That's why a lot of times we're just happy or we're content. If there's no anticipation, this is something programmed into us that is, unfortunately, no matter how much we want to fight the way males and females and people get in couples, that anticipation is important. Without it, we are just content and it's average. And we can change the levels of neediness. But what happens is, if you're excited over and over, then your brain creates a thought or belief or feeling. What happens if I don't get the grits today?
Okay.
And then it starts to create stress, and you start to worry and look for reasons, what should I do to get it? And what if I don't get it? And I feel so good when I get it. So if I don't get it, that means I'm going to feel like crap. And your brain starts creating this spiral of thoughts. So it is important to use all of our feelings and all of our excitement. And also, if we're excited about everything, at one point it becomes a default. Where do you go from excitement? Because if
what's left?
If you're excited about having glasses, then if something amazing happens, you're still going to be excited. So it's not going to give you joy. So experiencing a whole vast majority, having the vocabulary,
Yes.
And having all those feelings is crucial for a human experience, because without failure or without the difficulties, you will not be able to enjoy the success.
Exactly.
It is absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
But you can stay and moan and groan and feel awful for weeks. I used to be like this. I was a master of bringing myself down. I mean, I had a PhD ×3 in it. I was freaking amazing in it. Or you can choose to feel bad for yourself and have a time limit. And I do. It used to be 3-4 months. Now, when something happens, I mess up or life happens. Life is
Yep.
life.
Yep.
I go, okay, well, I'm going to now go in bed and cry for about 2 hours, and then I'm going to get up and I'm going to be okay. And that's what I do. And I wallow in my unhappiness and misery, and life is awful. Nobody loves me. And, the whole thing, 9 years. I go, okay, well, it's done. I can't do anything about it. So I might as well get up and do something that's good for me. Right. So then I try to get myself, I have my rebounder. I start jumping to activate my limbing system. I have other things and methods that I do. And this is to choose. We choose our life. We choose how we feel. Now, you can feel something automatically, but you choose to stay in it or keep going. And that's very important.
Yep.
And feeling bad is okay. It's okay to feel bad. It's okay to feel unhappy. It's okay not to feel okay, as Serena Williams said. It is absolutely okay to be down, and it's absolutely okay to experience grief when somebody dies. Please don't go, oh, I'm going to be joyful now. The question is how long? Because I have friends who experience grief for a month, 2, 3 to a year. And I have a friend who's experiencing grief for the last 25 years, and she made that an identity. She's choosing to still live in grief. It became her. Is that serving her and her family? Hell no.
No, it's not. And it's funny, I use it's so all that you're describing is I hear it's part of that human experience that we mentioned earlier. I oftentimes use an analogy of life sort of being a series of hills and valleys. And as we're going along, there are times we'll go into those valleys where it's painful, it hurts, it's grief, all that sorts of those negative things happen. But we're on the valley, at the top of the hill, rather, there's lots of joy and happiness and fulfillment. And so it's how long do you want to stay in the valley before you go to the top of the hill, or even start the journey up the ascension to the top of the hill? Because there's, as we said earlier, that process, there's something to take from that as well. And so, but ultimately, what you're describing, Dominika, is clearly that human experience and one that's so important and valuable that we all live. So I appreciate you going there for that.
So with brain coaching and with everything I do, with the keynotes and everything else, it is so important to recognize that nothing is separated from you. So let's just say you have a gut inflammation or body inflammation. Your brain is prone to show anxiety and depression and stress levels. So make sure your gut is working fine, because that's where your neurotransmitters are being produced. If you are having, if you're living in a dark room and never go outside, guess what? You're prone to feel depressed, because light is absolutely necessary for a human being. And the general knowledge, it's not to say that medicine is bad, because it's not. Sometimes we do need medication. And, if medicine was bad, we would still be living up to the age of 40 and die like we used to. Right. We live up to 80. We can cure cancer. We can do so many things. I'm sorry, but we couldn't cure cancer with herbs most of the time.
Right.
And schizophrenia, and, they say no, those diseases were there. It just, maybe they were less prominent. And we didn't know that it was, there were, if you look at tales and history of any continent, any country, you have those women living in huts in forests and jungles. Well, guess what? Most of these women were going through, if they were older, menopause, or they were having psychiatric issues. Yep. They were not, it's not magic. Yeah, we created those stories, right? So to kind of justify why somebody's living in a hut. But in Eastern Europe, where I'm from, we used to have, and just to be clear, we didn't live long enough to have perimenopause and menopause. And if we did, the changes were so unknown to medicine that we had hospitals locking women up in perimenopause and treating them as psychiatric patients, never to be let out. And people like me in 1400s, I got epilepsy. If I would have a seizure, if the exorcism didn't work, they would burn us on stake saying that we're witches, or put some, some heavy stuff and they would drown us. And if we drown, oh crap, they weren't a witch. Well, too bad. What a loss. And if we didn't drown, oh, she's a witch. We need to burn her. So, and it was, people gain knowledge, people grow. An unknown is prone to create some beliefs. Now it's our job to dismantle those beliefs.
Correct.
And our brain.
And we have enough information to be able to discern now, right? Like we're at a point now where we can really call it fact checking, if you will, right? But we have those tools and abilities to really get to the bottom of our beliefs that much more quicker. And I think that's just the advancement of where we are as a society.
And also, what I would love to invite you, for everybody who wants to build their brain health, I understand that there are medical gurus out there and people who preach the weirdest things. But go back and read science, and not the one study or two studies that you find on the internet. Go to things that are reputable, like PubMed, the WHO organization, and compare them and look at the sample studies. Because if a study is on 10 people, it really doesn't mean anything.
Right.
We need the studies that are on thousands of people or hundreds of people, where there's a repetitive something, there's a pattern.
Yep.
Then you go, okay, well, it's possible. Is anything right for everybody? No. What I do is not going to work on every person. Not every medication is going to work on every person. And, that's why we have different options. And you have the vast ability to choose for yourself and try everything. Now, I believe that if we would, as humanity, as people, start putting emphasis on our brain. So I was part of a project in Houston where consultants from outside will come into the at-risk schools in the environments, let's just say not too safe, and present different knowledge. And what was really sad is that, first of all, those kids never spoke about anxiety, and all of them have anxiety, depression, and anger management issues. Their parents have no clue. And after 6 months, the district decided that it's more important to teach them business skills than their mental health. So we as adults need to start with us and make this a common conversation. And I'm not talking about, the, let's say, very emotional parts, but how to manage anger, how to manage sadness. Why do I feel the way I feel?
Yep.
And the truth is that we have no control over people, but we do have control over how we react and how we allow this to make us feel. So the fact that somebody said something that got you upset. I always use this with my students. I'm like, imagine you are yelling slurs at me, describing my face. And let's say you're using the N-word looking at me. You're yelling at me. What do you think I'm going to think? I'm going to think you're crazy. Now, imagine I'm yelling at you, and let's say you have dark hair, and I'm saying you're stupid blonde, you're an idiot because you have blonde hair. And you're like,
right.
The difference between what people do to you and how you react and what people do and you don't react is that you have 100% conviction that it's not true. So if people trigger you, that means you're taking this as a possibility.
Yes.
And that means you need to work on you, because you can't control people. But if somebody says, you're not professional, and that would trigger me, and I'll go, that's not true, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, do I consider myself unprofessional? Do I consider myself a person that needs to work on that? Because if I know with 100% conviction that this is not true, they can talk all they want.
That's right.
Because it's not going to do anything to me. So anytime you get triggered, I want you to look at yourself and go, okay, why is that person getting me angry? What do I believe about myself? Because it's kind of, I would go, okay, I love your red walls. I mean, your red walls are just amazing. And you're like,
walls are red.
Red, they're white. So you just let me talk and it just flies over you.
That's
because
right.
You're 100% sure that this is not true.
That's right.
So one lesson.
And then the other thing that happens, I create a judgment that you have no idea what you're talking about, and I just write you off, right?
Yeah. And in this case, I definitely would not know, or be colorblind or something, I don't know, or see things, and maybe I need assistance. But with that being said, I think one of the things that is not good in our mental health society is that we've put so much influx on personal perception of the world that we assume that how we perceive the world, everybody else has to perceive the world the same way, and they don't. And also is that we take everything personally. And our brain then creates association, like somebody yells at you and, or is mean at a store or looks at you in a different way. Go, what are you looking at? Oh, great story. I was walking down in a park and this little dog was literally walking the owner. And I started laughing. I'm like, oh my God, you have such a cute puppy. I see that the dog is walking the owner. And the guy rose up. Is there a problem with that? No, just a cute puppy, and he's just all over the place. And I can see that, you guys are trying to, he took it as an attack, which it wasn't. But again, it wasn't me. It was his perception that this is an attack. And every time
or neural pathways have already been established that told him it was an attack, right?
Yes, exactly. Now, if that serves him, that type of reaction to strangers, hey, keep it, keep going. But if you think your reactions don't serve you, that's the time to start working on you.
Yep. Dominika, I absolutely love the dialogue. I love the exchange. I love the whole idea of being very deliberate or paying attention to your thought process and your neural pathways and what they're doing. And I think what you just closed there on, a great point, is, do they serve you? So I think those are excellent things for us to bear in mind, and I'll certainly encourage our audience to do so. This has been great. I really thank you for taking the time like this. Like I said off the top, it's just been really enlightening, and I think you've left some powerful insights. Let our audience know where they can get a copy of your book and where they can catch up with you.
Well, fantastic. Thank you for asking that. So my book is available on Amazon on Kindle, and it is in print, and the cost is the cost of your Starbucks coffee, so you have no excuse not to get it. And it's very short because it's for people who get overwhelmed. So it's about 68 pages. And you have precise exercises, things you can download. So that's on Amazon. The Magic of Dreaming Big, Acting Small, and Achieving Success. It is how to concentrate on the process instead of on the outcome, and how to live a better life with less stress. And you can find me everywhere under Your Brain Coach D. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook. My website is Your Brain Coach D. You can find me on LinkedIn under Your Brain Coach D, or you can find me under my first and last name, which nobody can pronounce, Dominika Staniewicz. So that's why I usually use Your Brain Coach D, and I'm happy to serve you and support you. There are plenty of knowledge coming out. And I also want to invite you, check your numbers on blood work, because very often how you feel can be connected, how healthy you are and what blood work you have. Check those numbers, make sure they're optimum, not in the norm, so your brain can produce the best results, so you can have an audacious life, so you can have a joyful life, so your life is the way you want it to be, instead of giving the reins and the steering to the world that you have no control over.
Amazing. Great stuff, Dominika. Thank you so much for the time, and all the best.
All the best. Thank you.
Back, we are here on the podcast, and thanks to Dominika for being here. Our conversation highlighted the power of our brain in influencing our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. By understanding the impact of trauma on our brain's wiring and learning how to retrain it for success, we can take charge of our lives and unlock our full potential. Dominika's insights remind us that our brains are malleable, and with the right tools and mindset, we can create positive neural pathways that lead to a happier, more fulfilling life. To learn more about Dominika, or to connect with her directly for personalized brain coaching and guidance, check out the show notes below where all our contact details are located, and embark on your journey towards living your best audacious life. Thank you for being a part of this episode by joining us on the Audacious Living Podcast. If you've enjoyed the conversation or want to learn more, or you found value in it, how would you like, subscribe, or share share. Those are the sorts of things that help this podcast grow, and it would be so much appreciated. So I thank you in advance. To our powerful listeners, I would say stay tuned for more empowering episodes. And remember, the power to change starts within you. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stevenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.